In this post, I discuss the first of 5 reasons why I think Christians ought not just to accept Darwin and the Big Bang Theory, they should absolutely love them. The first reason is the surprising observation that Darwin actually provides an explanation for fundamental Christian doctrine. When introducing this idea, I always like to begin by asking Christians, what is the most basic doctrine in Christianity? You'd think I'd get the correct answer at least 80–90% of the time. In fact, I get the correct answer less than 10% of the time. What? How can that be? The answers I tend to get fall into one of 2 categories. In the first, people say that God created the heavens and the earth. Well, that's a reasonable answer, but there is nothing uniquely Christian about the answer. Most other religion traditions maintain that God or some godlike agent created the world. What beyond that is uniquely Christian? In the second category, most of the answers are somehow related to Jesus and salvation. The responses tend to be perfectly reasonable, except that they almost invariably beg the question, why was it necessary for Jesus to appear on earth? In response to almost all the answers I hear, I ask the follow-up question, why? Most of the time, but definitely not always, I finally get to the correct answer. The most basic doctrine in Christianity is that mankind is sinful. The story of the Garden of Eden recounts the fall of mankind. What exactly is supposed to have happened in the Garden of Eden? An original pair of humans named Adam and Eve were instructed by God to do pretty much whatever they wanted, but they were not to eat the fruit of one particular tree. The devil tries to deceive them by saying that God really didn't mean that they should not eat the forbidden fruit. Eve and Adam then eat the fruit, the thing they were not supposed to do. God, as punishment, bans Adam and Eve from the garden. It'd be one thing if the story ended there, but it doesn't. By their sin, Adam and Eve upset all of God's creation. Nothing was quite the same after that. But it goes farther than that. Christians believe that the stain of Adam and Eve's sin somehow was transmitted to every other human after that. We all bear the same stain from the moment we take our first breath. It's the most fundamental Christian doctrine because the entire rest of the Bible actually deals with the problem of sin, as well as how to overcome it. Christians believe that humans by themselves cannot overcome sin. Instead, they can only overcome it by having faith in Jesus Christ, whose death atoned for it. It was a gift that was freely provided and could not be earned. So what's the problem? The problem is that while this is the most fundamental doctrine of Christianity, Christians have never provided a truly satisfying explanation either for why Adam and Eve sinned or what they could do about it. Was it just a bad day for Adam and Eve, or was there something inherent in their individual characters? Furthermore, the explanation for what I'll call the mechanism of transmission is less than satisfying. How did an act of 2 individuals who lived who knows how long ago cause everyone else to inherit the same propensity to sin? Traditionally, 2 different doctrines have been used to explain it. One is called traducianism and the other creationism. Both describe some type of a mystical, non-material means of transmission of sin from one generation to the next. Well, in the highly rationalistic society in which we live, these explanations sound like so much hocus pocus to lots of people. It just doesn't make sense to them. This, I believe, is where Darwin can come into play. Darwin, first of all, provides an excellent explanation of what caused Adam and Eve to defy God. The core of the argument goes like this. Darwin's theory says that organisms and creatures who will survive are the ones who are best adapted to their environment. Less well-adapted creatures will not survive long enough to reproduce. The behaviors that permit a creature to survive, however, oftentimes have a negative downside. Scientists have begun to observe this in non-human mammals. For example, monkeys deceive and steal. Their ability to deceive and steal helps determine whether they survive. It's the same type of behavior we see in humans, what we call sin. Well, we don't call it sin for monkeys and other animals because those creatures don't understand the difference between right and wrong as humans do. With our larger brains, humans have a much better developed sense of right and wrong than other creatures. Furthermore, we know we can make choices and we understand the implications of our choices, at least most of the time. What makes humans different than all other creatures? Our larger brains, we have developed the capacity for consciousness. We know the difference between right and wrong. We know we can make choices between right and wrong. We sometimes still consciously make the wrong choices. We have the need to feel in control, and this need to feel in control can lead us to defy others, even God. All humans possess this. We pass it along from generation to generation. In my book, I argued that each human behavior is like a coin. You know, of course, that every coin has a head and a tail. You can think of the head of the coin as the positive side of the trait. In evolutionary terms, it's the thing that helps the animal survive long enough to be able to reproduce. The tail of the coin, of course, is the negative side of the behavior, the thing we refer to as sin. So let's take theft as an example. The positive side of theft, such as theft of food, can help the animal survive. As I mentioned, those who study monkeys have observed that they regularly deceive and steal. Why? Because it helps them survive. Well, you already know the negative side of deceit and theft in humans. Humans have a need for control. The positive side of that, of course, is that it helps us survive. But the downside of the need for control is our tendency, for example, to try and defy others. Isn't that what Adam and Eve did? They defied God. No other species than ours can do that. Adam and Eve demonstrated this unique capacity that a new species called humans possessed, the conscious ability to make the wrong choice, even to the point of defying God. All other humans possess this unique capacity too. With the appearance of humans, the world truly was a different place. The old order had been upset. Well, one doesn't need to be a Christian to appreciate these new capabilities in humans. In fact, atheist adherents of Darwin's theory happily make the argument that the behavior we humans manifest is part of our evolutionary heritage. Sin thus can be thought of as a negative byproduct of evolution. The very traits that permitted us to evolve to have greater capabilities than any prior species suddenly have a negative side. The very things Christians call sin. Thus, Darwin can provide an explanation for the most fundamental doctrine of Christianity, the concept of original sin.